and Muslim colleagues, associates, may the guidance of Allah be with you all. It's indeed a great pleasure for me to be here the 26th of February 1997 to speak to you on the topic Maka'id al-Shaytan or Madakhil al-Shaytan al-Nas, Satan's web, the web of the Shaitan which he set for Bani Adam to fall into. This is my third trip to this university. Before I proceed, I would like to apologize for the late start. There were some complications with the motorway and the vehicle. I probably tell her that this third sitting of ours at this university will not be the third and last, but that we'll have many more sittings like this one, and that we'll gain maximum benefit from everything that will be said here today, both the speaker and the listeners. This topic is crucial because it's relevant to every single Muslim male and female, even children, because the shaitan tempts children as well. It's only that they are not held accountable for what they do until they reach puberty. The shaitan is at war with us. And whenever you have an enemy who launch a war against you, and you recognize your enemy, that is not sufficient. To recognize that you have an enemy is not sufficient. That's just half of the problem you solve, to identify your enemy. You have to know the strategies of that enemy, the capabilities of that enemy, the weapons of that enemy, and for you to overestimate his capabilities is not a disaster. The disaster is when you underestimate your enemy. You miscalculate. Then your enemy will annihilate and destroy you. The shaitan created from smokeless fire. He has desires like us. Rebelled against Allah Ta'ala because he claimed that Allah gave him a raw deal, preferred man over him. So he is on the war path. And he has his religion called relativism. So according to the shaitan, everything is relative. The truth is relative. Morality is relative. So you, the Muslim woman, may consider it necessary to cover your bosom when you go out, while another woman who is not a Muslim may go topless on the beaches of Tenerife or in the Caribbean, and she's also practicing morality, because morality is relative. The truth is relative. So the Hindus have the truth, the Buddhists have the truth, the agnostic has the truth, the Christians have the truth, the Jews have the truth, and you, the Muslim, you also have the truth. It's just that these people are expressing the truth in their own ways. So it's like you want to go from London to Birmingham. Some people take the M5, some people take the M1, and some people take the M23, and we all end up in Birmingham. The truth is relative. Everyone is expressing the truth in his or her own words. This is the Aqidah of the shaitan. Everything is relative. So when Isa alayhi salam was alive and the wicked king Pontius Pilate, the ambitious politician, asked Jesus in his palace, "What's your mission?" Jesus said, "I come with the truth." This man, Pontius Pilate, turned to Isa, Jesus, and said, "What is the truth?" Do you know why he asked Isa alayhi salam that question? Because according to him, the truth is relative. So you think something is the truth, and I may think it's not the truth. Everyone sees the truth in his own way. Not only does the shaitan believes in relativism, he believes in integrationism. So he wants us to integrate in his system. So he has programs like Home and Away, East Enders, Neighbors, Coronation Street, and he feeds you with these programs because he wants everyone to have the same identity. So whether your name is Khadija, Fatima, or Jennifer, or Paulette, He wants you to behave with the same behavior, a British behavior. He wants you to integrate into his society. So when you see a Muslim, he's only a Muslim by name, but not by character. Integrationism. And this is why they do not relish the idea of Muslim schools. Allah Ta'ala has warned us in Surah Yasin verse 60 about him. So Allah Ta'ala said, Alam ahad ilaykum. Alam ahad ilaykum ya bani Adam an la ta'bur shaitan innahu lakum adum mubin. Didn't you give us your word, O you children of Adam, that you will not worship the shaitan because he is an open enemy to you? The shaitan, apart from him propagating the religion of integrationism and relativism, he was the first racist. So when Allah Ta'ala commanded him to bow down to Adam, he refused. So Allah Ta'ala asked him, why did you refuse? He gave his famous answer. And this answer is, Ana khayrum min, Surah Araf verse 12. Ana khayrum min, khalaqtani min nar wa khalaqtahu min tin. I am better than him. You created me from fire, but as for him, you created him from clay. Therefore, I am better. So he uses his aql, his intellect, to refute the naql, the text. The naql is Allah's commandment. He uses his aql. As far as I can see, it doesn't make sense for me to bow down to him because you created me from fire and you created him, Adam, from clay. Therefore, I'm better. So he uses his intellect, his aql, to refute the commandment of Allah Ta'ala, the command of Allah. And there are many Muslim groups in this country today who emphasize the intellect and use the intellect to argue with the text, a vicious web of the shaitan. So anyone who thinks he's better than you because of skin color or the texture of hair or color of eyes, that person is a racist, walking in the footsteps of the shaitan, practicing the sunnah of the shaitan, and such an individual is the shaitan. One of the web of the shaitan, the very first web, is that he uses courtesy to hide his treachery. So when Adam was in the garden, he said to Adam, this can be found in Surah Taha, verse 120. Ya Adam, hal adulluka ala shajaratil khuld wa mulkin la yubla. O Adam, shall I not lead you to a tree that will make you live forever and cause you to rule over a kingdom that will never perish? So listen to his courtesy. It is as if he was asking Adam permission to lead him to that tree. If he should eat from that tree, he would live forever and rule over a kingdom that will never perish. So he uses courtesy to hide his treachery. So anywhere in the world he goes and he wants to deceive the local population, he comes with courtesy, soft speech. And even today, when he knocks on your door, the Jehovah's Witness, to give you a dawah, to invite you to the hellfire, the Muslim, when you are debating with the Jehovah's Witness who say Allah beget a son, Jesus is the begotten son of Allah. And you will say, how can this man say Allah beget a son? Allah cannot do such a thing. It's a human act, an animal act. Now you, the Muslim, may become upset, but that Jehovah's Witness would never become upset. Very courteous. And another shaitan, when he's giving you a producer, he's smiling with you. And when he locks you up in prison, he asks you, how do you take your coffee? How many sugars do you take? Very courteous. So he uses courtesy to hide his treachery. A very vicious web of the shaitan, which has proven to be very effective. He enjoys taking away from someone his or her innocence. So he goes all over the world with the dollar or the pound sterling, or the Dutch mark, to countries like the Philippines, Taiwan, Far East Asia, sometimes Africa, to engage the citizens in child pornography or child prostitution. So why is it that child prostitution is rife? It's an epidemic because the shaitan loves to take away from someone his or her innocence. And this is why he took from Adam his innocence, because Adam was innocent like a child. So he enjoyed causing Adam to slip from the garden of felicity and great splendor. He is unable to live in harmony with the creation of Allah, because when your relationship with Allah is bad, automatically your relationship with the creation becomes bad. I repeat. Whenever your relationship with the Creator is bad, you do not respect the Creator, you do not give him his right, which is Islamic monotheism. Whenever your relationship with the Creator is bad, automatically your relationship with the creation becomes bad. So the shaitan is unable to live in harmony with his environment around him, the creation of Allah, which is man, plants, and animals. So wherever in the world he goes to, he commits the crime of genocide. So he committed the crime of genocide in Tasmania, genocide in Australia, genocide in India and Pakistan, which used to be India, as well as Bangladesh, genocide in Africa, genocide in North America, Central America, and South America. And after he wiped out the Red Indians, he put his actions in movies, cowboys and Indians, and make his evil deed fair seeming. So he has the rest of the world cheering him on, cheering for the cowboy in his act of genocide and holocaust against the Red Indians. So the shaitan, not only did he commit genocide, he makes you cheer him on, cheer for him. So he has the ability to make the most shameful deeds fair seeming. Also, he dumps toxic waste all over the world. And the Chernobyl disaster is a splendid example of him being unable to live in harmony with the creation of Allah Ta'ala. So he creates environmental disaster. So many times we hear about nuclear disasters or the spill of ships in the ocean killing plants, animals, and so on and so forth. Allah Ta'ala spoke about this in Al-Quran in Surah Rum verse 41. Allah Ta'ala said, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادِ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِي النَّاسِ لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمَلُوا لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمَلُوا لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Corruption has become widespread in the land and in the sea because of the evil and corrupted handiworks of men. We cause this to befall them so that la'alla, Allah used the word la'alla, that maybe they may return to the natural disposition which Allah Ta'ala has created them in. So how did the corruption become widespread in land and in sea? Have you heard about genetic engineering? So when you drink cow's milk, you may be drinking the milk of pig or something else, or human milk. Have you heard about mad cow disease? The cow was created to eat herbs, herbivorous, and they turned the cow into what? Carnivorous or maybe omnivorous. Carnivorous to eat meat, omnivorous to eat anything. So when you eat the cow, which was created to eat herbs, and they made it omnivorous or carnivorous, what is the result? Mad cow disease. So this is an example of how corruption has become widespread in the land and in the sea because of the evil handiworks of men. Surah Rum, verse 41. He makes you use your akal, your intellect, to refute the text of Allah Ta'ala. So when you read the ayah, the hadith, whenever the fly drops in your drink, dips it. One wing has the germ, the other has the cure. You will say, that doesn't make sense. A fly drop in my soup and I have to dip it down another time because one wing has the germ and the other wing has the cure. That doesn't make sense. So you reject the hadith even though it is in Sahih Bukhari. Or another hadith, no disease is contagious. That doesn't make sense, no disease is contagious. How many people die from AIDS because they sleep around? What did the Prophet Muhammad mean when he said no disease is contagious? That doesn't make sense. So you reject the hadith even though it's in Bukhari. I explained, no disease can catch you, no disease can affect you, contaminate you. No disease is contagious unless it is the will of Allah for you to catch that disease. This is the shart for the hadith. He uses something which is halal to lead you on to commit a crime which is haram. He uses halal to lead you on to do a crime which is haram. So there was a monk who was very pious, and two brothers brought their sister. Three brothers. Their very beautiful sister. Take care of her for us. The society is evil and corrupted. I don't want her to get involved in the corruption of the society. And the monk said, keep her away from me. You bring a woman to me to look after, keep her away from me. And then the shaitan came to him and said, you send that girl away with her brothers. What if she should live among the corrupted people and become of those who are astray? How can you live with your conscience? You have knowledge. It's better you take her into your care and teach her. So when they were taking the girl away, the monk said, bring her back, but lock her up into that room. I don't want to have close contact with her. Then they did that. And he used to feed her. And he used to put the food outside the door. And then he would leave. The shaitan said, knock the door. Maybe she didn't know the food is out there. Then he knocked the door and she would take the food in. He didn't want to see her. He didn't want to have eye-to-eye contact with her. After some time elapses, the shaitan said, you are feeding this girl. You did not impart your knowledge to her. Give her a study circle, a halqa from behind the door. And then he taught her from behind the door for a long period of time. Then the shaitan came to him another day. You are giving this girl a study circle from behind the door. Maybe she doesn't hear what you're saying. What if she's sleeping? You're speaking to the door. Remove the door and have eye-to-eye contact. On top of that, the best way to teach a student is to have eye-to-eye contact. Then you are positive that you are sure that the student is digesting your message. So he took the door away and he had eye-to-eye contact with the girl. After some time elapsed, the shaitan caused him to develop sexual attraction to her, and she sexual attraction for him. And then they committed zina. She became pregnant. Then he became worried, perturbed, petrified, terrified. The shaitan said, you used to be known in this community as a pious man, the most pious man. Now you got her pregnant, your character is finished. Anyway, I know a way out. Kill her and bury her. So you bury the disgrace. He did exactly that. He killed her and buried her. Then the three brothers came back to him and said, we left our sister with you to look after. And it's only natural that we come and see how she fared. What's her situation? The monk said, she became sick. And I bent over backwards to find medicine for her. I did everything that I could, and still she died. I'm sorry, she died, even though I tried my best. The three brothers said, well, what can we say? You tried your best. Anyway, we thank you for taking care of her, and we thank you for trying your best with her, and they went home. Did the shaitan leave them alone? No. The shaitan didn't leave them alone. The shaitan came to the three brothers in their sleep and said, this man who you left your sister with got her pregnant, and then he killed her and buried her, thinking he can bury the disgrace. And the brothers woke up and said, I had a strange dream dream last night. The first brother. The second one said, I had a strange dream last night. The third one said, I had a strange dream last night. When they related their dream, it was the exact same thing. And the shaitan told them where the grave of their sister was. So they went and they dug it up and they found the sister in the grave, pregnant with a baby in her stomach. They went to the monk. They pulled him out in front of the people. And they said, people, this man, we thought he was pious, he was righteous. And we left our sister for him to take care of, and he got her pregnant. And then he killed her, thinking he can bury the disgrace. Let us kill him. Did the shaitan leave him alone? Up till now, the shaitan still didn't leave him alone. So the shaitan came to him and said, no one caused you to be in this calamity, this catastrophe, except me, Iblis. So no one can get you out except me, Iblis. The only way out is for you to make one sajda to me. Just one sajda. And this is when the shaitan is at his peak of enjoyment and ecstasy, when you make sajda to him. So he made sajda to the shaitan, hoping the shaitan will get him out of his problem. The shaitan said, I now wash my hands from you. I'm now finished with you. I only tempted you, and you complied with my temptations. He left you. So the shaitan loves to use you, then he dumps you. The shaitan loves to use you, then he dumps you. The way they used the Mujahideen to destroy the Soviet Union, USSR, calling them freedom fighters. And when the USSR was completely destroyed, what did they call them? Terrorists. The same Mujahideen who they used to call freedom fighters. So the shaitan loves to use you, then he dumps you. So his web, this web which I've explained to you, is called subliminal seductions, sequential persuasion, and classical conditioning. Subliminal seduction. You are in front of your TV watching a football match, and when there's a commercial break, you see popcorn being advertised, and you got up, went to your kitchen and get popcorn, you don't know why you got up. Subliminal seduction. Sequential persuasion, to lead someone on little by little, step by step, until you get them exactly where you want them. Use halal to make them do haram. Classical conditioning, whenever you want a person to be a pervert, just bombard him with nude pictures. He rides the tube, all he sees nude pictures. He goes to the news agents, all he sees in the tabloids, nude pictures. He goes to the post office, all he can see is postcards with nude pictures. That is what? Classical conditioning. You want him to be a pervert without realizing that he is one, just bombard him with evil things. That is classical conditioning, evil, very evil and corrupted web of the shaitan. He loves zina. Allah said he invites to all types of fahsha, abnormal cohabitations. Abnormal cohabitations, like fornication, adultery, incest, lesbianism, homosexuality, bestiality, masturbation, rape. All these are abnormal cohabitations. Allah said he loves to invite to these things. Surah Nur, verse 21. Innahu ya'mur bil fahsha wal munkar. He invites to all types of perversions and all types of sins. He loves zina. So any society in which the henchmen of the shaitan, i.e. the kafirs, are in control, zina becomes rife. So the TV which is in their hands invites to zina. The radio invites to zina. The newspapers invites to zina. The magazines invites to zina. The advertisements invite to zina. They submit all these technologies invite to zina. And more recently, the computer invites to zina. There are some computers that portray pornographic materials on the internet. So every single item of technology, they use it to invite to zina. This tape recorder, they have musical cassettes inviting to zina. Every single item of technology, they use it to invite to zina because he loves zina. Do you know why he loves zina? Because whenever a man cohabits with a woman, he has to make his dua. Allahumma janibna ash-shaytan wa janib ash-shaytan ma razaqtana. Oh Allah, prevent us from the shaitan and prevent our offspring which you are about to bestow upon us from the shaitan. Now a man who is cohabiting with a woman and he is committing zina with her, can he say Bismillah before he starts? Allahumma janibna ash-shaytan wa janib ash-shaytan ma razaqtana. Impossible. So that child, obviously, that illegitimate child will be a child of the shaitan, because Allah Ta'ala said in Surah Isra that these children are children of the shaitan, illegitimate children. He loves to look at the nakedness of others. So in Surah Araf verse 27, Allah said, Ya bani Adam, la yaftinannakum ash-shaytan kama akhraja abawaykum min al-jannah yanzi anhuma libasahuma liyuriyahuma sawatihima. O children of Adam, do not become tempted by the shaitan and his strategies. He is the one who caused your parents, Adam and Eve, to be casted out of heaven, causing them to eat from the haram tree so that their heavenly clothing will be snatched from them, so that they will become naked. So that they will become naked. Surah Araf verse 26. So the shaitan enjoys looking at the private parts of others. So any society in which the henchmen of the shaitan are in control, pornographic materials become very rampant and rife in such a society. His strategy is weak. He has no power. He only has strength whenever he comes up and challenge a Muslim who is weak in Iman. But if he meets a Muslim who is strong in Iman, then he has no power against him. Allah Ta'ala said in Surah Nisa verse 76, Alladhina amanu yuqatiluna fi sabilillah وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ الطَّاغُوتِ فَقَاتِلُوا أَوْلِيَاءَ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّ كَيْدَ الشَّيْطَانِ كَانَ ضَعِيفًا. Those who believe fight for Allah, and those who reject faith fight for the sake of the Taghut. So fight the henchmen of the shaitan, for verily the strategies of the shaitan is ever weak. This is Allah speaking. Where is this ayah found? Nisa 76. I give you an example to prove that shaitan is weak. The UN and the USA and the UK gave the Serbs approximately 6 months to a year to kill all the Muslims in Bosnia by putting an arms embargo on them. And the Muslims in Bosnia, they fought back. Were they strong Muslims? No. They used to eat pork and wash it down with vodka. They weren't strong Muslims, and they never used to pray 5 times a day. And they never practiced al-wala wal-bara. They used to take the enemies of Allah for their friends. The war, instead of lasting 6 months or a year, the way the USA, the UK, and the UN planned it, it dragged on for 4 long years. The Muslims were gaining territories instead of losing territories. So the henchmen of the shaitan said to themselves, these Muslims, we place on them an arms embargo, and instead of us wiping them out, because we cannot tolerate an Islamic state in the heart of Europe, instead of us wiping them out, they are gaining territories. So what did they do? They quickly bring the war to a halt, to a stop. So if the Muslims were gaining weapons, the way the Serbs had weapons and the Croats, not only would they gain territories in Bosnia, they could easily run over Europe. So they smell the rat. They know what was coming, so they quickly bring the war to a halt. This incident in Bosnia is sufficient to prove to you that the shaitan is weak. He and his henchmen. They are paper tigers, or a giant with mud at his feet, so he can slip and die at any time. Umar al-Khattab, radiallahu anhu, the second caliph, he was a man like you and I. But when the shaitan saw him walking on the road, he had to walk on the other side of the road. Another example to prove that the shaitan has no power, he is weak. Another way, he makes you speak about Allah without having sufficient knowledge. Also, he makes you engage in senseless pastimes. So instead of studying your university work or reading Islamic materials, you spend 3, 4, 5 hours looking at the prostitutes and homosexuals of Hollywood on TV and video films. 3, 4, 5 hours looking at football. If you look at one match, it's not haram, it's halal. But you don't sit down in front of your TV 4, 5, 6 hours looking at football. So he makes you waste your time. He makes you waste your youth. He makes you waste your money. He makes you waste your energy. And you will never, never, never go to paradise until you are asked 4 questions. 4 questions. Your lifespan, how did you use it? Especially your youth. That was the best time of your life. Your youth, how did you utilize your youth? Your wealth, how did you obtain it? How did you use it? Your knowledge, how did you use your Islamic knowledge which I gave you? The 4th question, your body. What things did you exhaust your body on? A very strong hadith collected by Abu Dawud in his Sunan. The shaitan loves to set up groups. Groups. Now, some people, some henchmen of the shaitan, they wage against you chemical warfare. Others, germ warfare, by allowing prostitutes to operate freely in Muslim areas. That's what they are doing right now in London in a place called Brick Lane. They allow prostitutes to operate freely in Muslim areas. That's called germ warfare. They want you to die from AIDS. Then you have drugs warfare, and that is to allow drug pushers to operate freely in Muslim areas. This is happening right now in a place in London called Tower Hamlets. Then you have military warfare, like what they did against the Muslims in the Gulf War. They killed 300,000 Iraqis. These are warfares. You have propaganda warfare, and that is to use the ITN, the BBC 1, BBC 2, the CNN to call you terrorists, fundamentalists, fanatic extremists. That's called propaganda warfare. Then there's another warfare, the most vicious warfare. I haven't made mention of it yet. The worst warfare, I haven't made mention of it yet. Which warfare is this? Ideological warfare. To turn you into a kafir without you realizing it. Look how many Muslims here in the UK, they believe in democracy. The greatest shirk. So the British turned them into kafirs without them realizing it. So what the kafirs do, they set up groups like the Qadiani, the Bareilly, the Shia. Set up groups. So when a person coming out of Christianity like myself and coming to Islam, the Shia say something, the Bareilly say something. The Shia said Ali should be the caliph. The Bareilly said Muhammad was created from light, and he comes to the Jummah every Friday. I always ask him, why didn't you let him lead the prayer then? Then you have the Sufis saying you can make dua directly to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then you have the Democrats saying that democracy is the way forward, not jihad. You have so many groups. Then you have some people saying there is no punishment in the grave, even though it's in the Quran, in Surah Ghafir, verse 43 to 45. Some people saying Jesus is not coming again, even though it's in Surah Zukhruf, verse 61, so many groups. So a person who is a revert coming into Islam, he's confused. So he's like a man who wants to buy a diamond and people put 73 diamonds in front of him. 72 is fake, but one is the real diamond. How will he know which one to choose? And they said to him, choose one. Anyone you take, I will give you for free. So there are 73 sects. So you have 73 sects in front of you. They look like diamond, but only one is real, the other is fake. So what they wage against us, the henchmen of the shaitan, is ideological warfare. So the French and the Americans, because they are impatient, they adopted military warfare to kill you directly. The way they went ahead and did it in the Gulf or in Algeria, the French are doing it in Algeria, and the Americans in Somalia, and so on and so forth. They kill you directly. But because the British, their culture is patience, they do not kill you directly, militarily, they use ideological warfare. So movements like the Qadiani and the Borelli are nothing but British conspiracies. Ideological warfare. He loves to remind you of your past, your evil past, for you to return to your evil past, even though your past may be Jahiliyyah. He infiltrates us with racism. So I wouldn't be surprised to find black people loving black Kafirs more than their Asian brothers, and vice versa. He infiltrates us with nationalism. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Muslims fighting in the Indian army against Pakistanis who are their Muslim brothers, because he is an Indian first, Muslim last. He has infiltrated us with nationalism, infiltrated us with groupism, infiltrated us with racism. These are vicious webs of the shaitan. Why is it that he finds it necessary to divide us? Because our division means his strength. He separates two things that were supposed to be joined together. For example, Quran and Sunnah are inseparable. So you can follow Quran and dump the Sunnah, because the Sunnah explains the Quran. How do you know that when you pray you have to recite Surah Fatiha and the Tashahhud, At-Tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawatu wa tayyibatu? How did you know that? From the Sunnah. So you cannot separate Quran from Sunnah, but the shaitan makes many people do that. He makes you separate Aqidah from Sharia. This hadith is ahad, so I'll take it into my Sharia, but not into my Aqidah. Which Sahaba, which one of the four rightly guided caliphs separated Aqidah from Sharia? Did you know that your Sharia is an integral part of your Aqidah? Why do you think in Surah Baqarah verse 65, Allah turned the Jews into apes and swines, walking around on all four? Why? Because they tampered with the Sharia. They did not practice the Sabbath. Why do you think in Surah Ma'idah verse 44, Allah pronounced the Jews kafirs? Because they tampered with the Sharia. They never stoned those who committed adultery to death. So your Sharia is an integral part of your Aqidah. Even when you walk down the road and you see a banana skin and you take it up and you throw it in the bin because you do not want somebody to fall over it, that is Aqidah as well as Sharia. You may think it's Sharia, it's Aqidah, because the Prophet said to remove harmful things from the road is a branch of your Iman. Even when you cohabit with your wife, you may think it's Sharia, it's Aqidah. Because the Prophet said what? Every time you cohabit, you do an act of worship. The whole of Islam is Aqidah. So you're not allowed to separate Aqidah from Sharia or Sharia from Aqidah. This manhaj, this Aqidah is deviance. Bring me one Sahaba who did it. They studied everything and call it Islam and Iman. So the shaitan makes you separate two things that were meant to be joined together. And he makes you join together two things that were supposed to be separated. So take, for example, democracy, which is the greatest shirk. Because democracy means what? The government of the people, for the people, and by the people. So in a democratic country, a law is totally irrelevant, insignificant, and unimportant. That's democracy. But you have people who set up parties and call it the Islamic Democratic Alliance. They put Islam and democracy together. So when the shaitan wants his filth to become accepted, just put Islam in front of it and Muslims will accept it. So you say Islamic democracy. When you say Islamic democracy, you're saying Islamic shirk. That's what you're saying. So soon you will start saying Islamic Heineken, Islamic pork, Islamic disco, Islamic Christmas, and so on and so forth. The way some women, Muslim women, were in Luton having a party, dancing, from Whitney Houston, Madonna, Michael Jackson, dancing. Islamic raving, because they belong to a group who told them that it's halal to listen to music. So soon you'll have Islamic raving, and so on and so forth. So whenever the shaitan wants you to accept his filth, just put Islam in front of it, and the Muslims will accept it. Another way, he practices emotional blackmail. So a child who is Hindu, or Buddhist, or Christian, and you, the Muslim, invite him to Islam on campus, the shaitan whispers to him, how can you embrace Islam and give up the religion of your parents? And you, the Muslim, explain to him monotheism. Monotheism. Allah is one, he has no partners, and to beget a son is below his dignity, it's an animal act. So the Christian become convinced Islam is the truth. But the shaitan practices emotional blackmail. If you become a Muslim, you will lose your mother and father. Stay in Christianity. It's not all that bad. At least they believe in Jesus like the Muslims, and the Christians believe in the hellfire like the Muslims. So you may go to paradise. Who to tell you may be in paradise like the Muslims? Stay in Christianity. Do not break the heart of your mother or your father. Abu Talib, the Prophet's uncle, was convinced Islam was the truth. So when he was dying, the Prophet rushed to his bed to invite him to Islam, and a kafir by the name of Abu Jahl said, don't listen to him. Die on the religion of your father, Abdul Muttalib. Abdul Muttalib was a pagan who worshipped 360 idols. And Abu Talib listened to the emotional blackmail of Abu Jahl, and his last words were, ala millat Abdul Muttalib, so he died a kafir. The Prophet ﷺ, he was shattered. His heart was broken. My uncle who I love so much, look, he died a kafir in front of my very eyes. I couldn't give him shahada. He was a prophet, and he couldn't give this man shahada, because only Allah guides. So Allah comforted his beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ with an ayah in Surah Qasas verse 56. إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. You, Muhammad, cannot guide to the straight path who you want to guide. Only me, Allah, can guide. Another way, he tampers with your natural instincts. So your instinct to love your children, he makes you become stingy. Why should I give that poor man a pound? I have 6 children at home. They need it more than him. He tampers with your natural instinct to love your children to make you turn your back on jihad. He tampers with your natural instinct to be attracted to the opposite sex for you to become promiscuous. He tampers with your natural instinct to love wealth for you to bet on the national lottery. He tampers with your natural instinct to fear death for you to seek for ways and means to replace qital, fighting physically to spread the deen of Allah Ta'ala. So he tampers with this instinct and this instinct and this instinct. All the instincts that you have to make you leave the fold of Al-Islam. He makes you follow the allegorical verses of the Holy Quran. So verses like Alif Lam Mim, he makes you explain it, even though only Allah knows the meaning. Verses like Allah's hand, he makes some people explain it exactly what Allah's hand looked like. He makes you give the exact figure. How many people were in the cave? The Romans who ran away from Rome to worship Allah alone, and they went in a cave. He makes you say exactly how many people were in the cave, even though only Allah knows that. So verses of the Quran that only Allah knows, he makes you give your own explanation. He makes you follow the allegorical verses of the Holy Quran. A brief description of the shaitan. He is weak. His strategy is weak. The shaitan are very excellent pretender. Excellent in pretending. Have you seen the Rosemary West case? That woman who killed many young girls. When the judge was trying her in the courthouse, you should see how she broke down in tears, and she wiped her tears in slow motion, and she sobbed and she sobbed. If it were you and I who were the judge, we may set her free. We couldn't be judges in that courthouse anyway, because you can't judge by anything other than what Allah has revealed. But because the judge himself is a shaitan, and he takes one shaitan to know the other shaitan, he locks her up and throws away the key. Rosemary West performed a wonderful performance of pretense. A historic performance. So the shaitan is a great pretender. And he likes to play the word game. The word game. So the UN, they are mischief makers. They were in Bosnia and they raped many Muslim girls. The UN soldiers. They're mischief makers. But what do they call themselves? Peacekeeping troops. Because they know the power. The shaitan knows the power of words, that the name you give to a thing has a lasting effect on the mind of the listener. So even though these people, no, they were in, you call yourself peacekeeping troops, how comes 1 million Muslim was killed in Bosnia? What peace were you keeping? You filthy hypocrites. So Allah spoke about them in Surah Baqarah. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ الْمُفْسِدُونَ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. When it is said unto them, do not make mischief on the earth, they said, why? We are peacemakers. Allah said, verily, they are the mischief makers, but they realize it not. So they like to play the word game, to call the most shameful deeds beautiful names. So when a woman is committing adultery, what did they say? Or a man committing adultery? Oh, it was a massage. It was just an affair. Or a person who is a homosexual, they said, oh, he's just been naughty, he's been gay. He's just been gay. 20 years ago, if you should take up a dictionary which was printed 20 years ago, the word gay carried a good meaning, but they have corrupted that word now. That word, they have corrupted it. You can't use it to mean that what you mean 20 years ago. So they play the word game because they know the importance of words. A bastard child, oh, a love child. What love child? A man sees a woman for 1 hour. After 1 hour, he meets her in the dance floor, on the dance floor, dance with her, and after 1 hour, he cohabits with her. You call that love? That's not a love child, that's a lust child. So all the evil that you can think of, he used beautiful names to paint it, because it's a web of the shaitan. He wants you to accept his filth, his corruption, his infidelity, his hypocrisy. The shaitan is a compulsive liar. So when he was tempting Adam to eat from the haram tree, he said what? Wallahi, I'm speaking the truth. He swore by Allah and told a lie. And the Prophet said, 3 people on Judgment Day, Allah will not look at them, much less to forgive them, much less to speak to them, to absolve them. An old man who commits zina, A poor man who is proud. He can hardly find a night's dinner, but he's proud, behaving like the earth is not good enough for him to walk on. The third man, a man who says wallahi and tell lies. These three people on Judgment Day, Allah will not look at them, much less to speak to them, much less to absolve them. The shaitan is very, very ungrateful. So Allah gives him an aql, an intellect, so he discovers the microchip, electric train, fax machine, microwave, oven, car, you name it. He even went to the moon. Allah gave him the aql to make many breakthroughs. And how did he thank Allah? This kafir scientist, he thanked Allah by saying, there is no God. He didn't thank Allah for giving him the brain to make these scientific breakthroughs. What did he say? There is no God. Do you know why he said there is no God? And you at your university, in this university, the science teachers, most of them are atheists. Do you know why? Because they are suffering from a God complex. And they behave like they know it all. The science teachers, they behave like Mr. Know-It-All. And they are atheists. Do you know why? Because they want you to worship them. They are suffering from not a superiority complex, that's too mild. They are suffering from a God complex. Not only is the shaitan ungrateful, he is very wasteful. He likes to waste. So Allah said in Surah Isra, verse 27, إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِرَبِّهِ كَفُورًا. Verily, the brothers, the wasters are the brothers of the shaitan. And the shaitan is always ungrateful to his Lord. So whenever they have an overproduction, as they claim it, of wheat or milk or meat, they dump it in the sea rather than shipping it to the starving people of Asia and Africa. They dump it in the sea. How can we overproduce? The price will go down. We cannot afford for the price of wheat to go down, or corn, or milk, so let us dump the extra in the sea. So the shaitan is extremely wasteful. He laughs because whenever you yawn, he laughs at you. He urinates because a man woke up late for Fajr and the Prophet said the shaitan urinated in his ears. The shaitan, does he sleep? That's my question to you. Does he sleep? What do you think? What do you think? Okay, I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a clue. The ITN and the CNN, does it go down? Does it close down? So you know the answer. Hassan al-Basri, the great Tabi'i, a man came to him and said, does the shaitan sleep? Hassan al-Basri said if the shaitan had slept, if he was of those who sleep, when he was sleeping there would be no fitna, no corruption, no confusion, no sin on the face of the earth. Brothers and sisters in Islam, the shaitan doesn't sleep. He runs in your veins the way blood runs in your veins. He doesn't sleep. And even when you're sleeping, he is taunting you. He gives you nightmares. Nightmares. This is for people who go to bed without performing wudu or to recite the kuls. Kul wallahu ahad, kul a'udhu bil falaq, kul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. Forgetfulness is from the shaitan. He loves when you forget things. You have a coursework to do, and you rush out of your house and forget your coursework at home. So the professor screams at you. He loves when you forget things. Forgetfulness is from him, and haste is from him. He likes when you do things in haste because you make mistakes, so you have to go over from beginning, from A to Z again. Quarrels and arguments and disputes are from the shaitan. So Aisha, the beloved wife of the Prophet, said, I heard the Messenger of Allah saying, verily the most disgusting person in the sight of Allah is he who is cantankerous, who likes to argue. Argumentative, garrulous, cantankerous. He threatens you with poverty, and then he commands you to do the most shameful deeds. So you are a Muslim scholar, and listen to the shaitan. He whispers to you, Now, the leaders who dismantles the Sharia, they dismantle the Sharia and they are throwing the scholars in prison and killing other scholars. Why should you speak out? You are just one individual. You can't change the status quo. So it's better you keep quiet, get a salary from them, use that salary to feed yourself and your 6 children. It's better you get the crumbs that fall from the table. If you speak out, your salary will be cut. And you are just an individual. You can't change anything. They have America behind them. They have the UN behind them. How can you stand up to the UN in America? You're just one individual. So keep quiet and justify what they are doing and get their salary. He threatens you with poverty and then he commands you to sell out. To be a traitor to Allah. His messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Al-Islam, our way of life, and the Muslims who you are supposed to teach. You went to Islamic University to speak the truth, not to get a salary and make your belly fat. That's not your aim and objective in going to an Islamic university. To speak the truth and expose the shaitan and his henchmen. He threatens you with poverty and he threatens you with fear. So it makes you insure your house and your life and insure everything that you have. And he loves when crime is in a country. When crime is in a country, the shaitan loves it. Because you have to build new prisons. So the construction companies is a multi-billion-dollar business for them to build new prisons. And you need prison wardens to run these prisons. So you employ people to run these prisons. And when a man is a criminal, a thief, a rapist, a murderer, the barrister will get a job to defend the rapist. So the barrister is employed. And you need a judge to supervise over the rapist, the murderer, the criminal. So the judge is employed. So many people are being employed from the crimes of this country. So there are many people who provide a meal on their table from the filth that has become rife in this society. This evil and corrupted society. He makes you entertain false ideas about Allah and become despondent and give up hope. He makes you break family ties. Stop talking to your mother, your father, your brother, your sister. And any one of you who break family ties, you will never, never, never enter the paradise. To break family ties is a major crime in Al-Islam. If you break family ties from your mother, your father, your brother, or your sister, you will never enter the paradise. He makes you procrastinate. So something which you can do today, he makes you put it off for tomorrow. So countries that were established to establish the Sharia, and they say we will implement the Sharia little by little, step by step, they never have the Sharia. Countries like the Sudan and Pakistan, they never have the Sharia because they want to implement it little by little, step by step. And when you grab power from the Kafirs, you have to implement the Sharia all at once, the way Taliban showed you how to do it. Procrastination is not allowed. The Quran, all of it has been revealed, and we are not waiting for any more revelations to come down. So you have to implement it all at once. Some people say the people are addicted to heroin and alcohol and zina. Give them time to give it up. They will never give it up. They will never give it up because they are addicted. And Allah said on Judgment Day, He will say to me, "Oh Allah, give me time to go back to the dunya to make my record straight. Give me time to go back to the dunya, I will change." Allah said, even if I send him back to the world, he will go back and do the same shameful deeds. So man is so evil that he even tried to pull a stunt on Allah Ta'ala. He makes you think that you have enough knowledge. So whenever you go to a study circle for 1 year, and you have 10, 15, 20 tapes on Islam, you say, "I've got it. I now know it." How can you think that you have enough knowledge? And Allah Ta'ala said, if all the seas on earth should become ink, the 7 seas, and I give you 7 more seas, making it 14, and all the trees on earth should become ink for you to write about Allah and His religion, Al-Islam, and His 99 names and attributes, the 14 seas would dry up, and still you did not write everything which is necessary to be written about Allah and His religion, Al-Islam. So how can you say, I have it? The more you know, it's the more you realize that you do not know. The more you realize that you do not know, it's the more you have the urge to know. The more you have the urge to know, it's the more you realize the importance of teaching and learning. So seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. He makes you use the mistakes of others to justify your sins. So you are drinking alcohol and somebody tells you to fear Allah and stop it. You say, I know a Hafiz who drink alcohol, so why can't I have a good time as well? He memorized the whole Quran and he drinks alcohol, so why can't I do it? So the shaitan makes you use the weaknesses of others to justify your crimes. A vicious web of the shaitan. He makes you use the scums of the earth as your standard for piety. So you have a kafir neighbor, he drinks, he gambles, he smokes, and he is even a bisexual. He's everything which is evil. So you look at yourself and you say, I'm not doing none of these. I'm not doing any of these crimes. So you start to think, maybe I have the iman of Abu Bakr or Omar. Why do you think like that? Now if you had compared yourself to Abu Bakr, Omar, Khadija, Fatima, Aisha, you will say, I need to strive some more. I'm far away from these Sahabas. I'm not like them. But the shaitan doesn't want you to use the Sahabas as your role models. He makes you use your kafir neighbor as your role model. So when you compare yourself to your kafir neighbor, you think you're an angel. That's a vicious web of the shaitan. Don't use a scum of the earth as your role model, as your standard for piety. Your standard of piety is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his noble companions, especially the four rightly guarded caliphs. As I said, he makes shameful deeds fair seeming. He makes you magnify things that are not important. Things that are not important, he makes you magnify it. For example, your skin color is not important. You can't go to paradise on Judgment Day because of your skin color. Your passport is not important. Allah will not say on Judgment Day, where are the holders of British passport, American passport? Bring them to me so that I can give them Firdaus. Can you go to paradise because of your British passport, American passport, European passport, Saudi passport, Kuwaiti passport? No. These things are not important. So what's important? Iman, Islam. But the shaitan, he looks down on Islam. Islam is not important. It's your passport which is important. So what is important, he looks down on it. And what is insignificant, he magnifies it. A vicious web of the shaitan that many Muslims fall into. So much so that in Saudi Arabia, they make it haram for Saudis to marry non-Saudis. They make haram halal. So they fall into the vicious web of the shaitan. He makes you use men to judge the truth instead of using the truth to judge men. So we use Islam to judge Muslims. We don't use Muslims to judge Islam. So if you know that a Muslim is doing everything which is haram, you can say Islam is a bad religion. Don't blame Islam. Islam is a bad religion. We don't use men to judge the truth. We use the truth to judge men. So get your Aqidah correct. And he humiliates important people. And he magnifies people who are evil. So when you go to Holy Mecca, the tapes of the great scholars, Safar Hawali, Salman al-Auda, Nasir Omar, Nasir Akl, these tapes are banned in the bookshops of Mecca. But in Holy Mecca, you can get Madonna, Whitney Houston, Eddie Murphy with all the F words on these cassettes. So the shaitan, he treats important people as riffraffs. But people who are scams, he gives them honor, dignity, and prestige. You don't want to be like the Sultanate of Brunei who invite Michael Jackson to sing for him on his birthday. That is kufr on top of kufr. When you play the music of Michael Jackson, what does it say? I worship the devil. I worship the devil. You should backtrack it and listen to what he's saying. Devil worshiping music. You don't want to be like the people in Malaysia who invite him again to sing for them. We don't want to be westernized. We want to be Islamized. We don't want to be westernized. To hell with your Western civilization. If you had anything to offer, why is it that your society is decaying, decomposing? Inshallah, can I have 5 minutes? Okay, inshallah. As for 15. With your permission, can I have 5 minutes more? I have approximately 3 more webs. Inshallah, let's take 2 minutes. He makes you narrow down things that are vast. Things that are narrow, he makes it vast. I explain. Islam is vast. Don't keep Islam in the 4 corners of the masjid. Islam belongs to the Ministry of Interior. Not just the masjid, the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of Exterior, the Financial Ministry, the Education Ministry, the Cultural Ministry. Islam belongs everywhere, in every ministry. It's vast. Because Allah said, this day I have perfected for you your religion. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. So Islam is vast, it's perfect. It should be in all spheres of life, all walks of life. But the shaitan wants you to marginalize Islam, so he says to you, keep it in the 4 corners of the masjid. A thing like psychology, which is narrow, he makes it vast. So anything you study, you have to study psychology. And these psychologists, they have mad people going to them on an everyday basis. After some time, they themselves become mad. So we say the doctors need a doctor. After some time, they themselves become lunatics. He practices waswasa. He mixes truth with falsehood. So whenever he is showing you a documentary on the TV, on religion, he mentions Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Islam, Judaism, and so on and so forth. Christianity. So he puts Islam in the middle. The one truth, which is Islam, he puts it in the middle. So you, the viewer who is searching will say, why should I join a religion? They're saying the same thing. They're saying the exact same thing. So why should I bother to join a religion? So he mixes truth with falsehood and he hides the truth. He practices waswasa. I close by saying, waswasa means to whisper to you evil thoughts, perverted desires, corrupted desires. I close by saying, Allah said in Surah Ibrahim, verse 22, وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانُ لَمَا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ. The shaitan will say on Judgment Day, when the truth manifests itself, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعَدَ الْحَقِّ. Allah promised you something, which was the truth. وَوَعَدْتُكُمْ. And I also promised you something, فَاخْتَلَفْتُمْ. But my promise was fake. It was unreal. It was a lie. وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَنْ دَعَوْتُكُمْ. I didn't have any power over you except that I invited you to do the haram things that you did. فَاسْتَجِبْتُمْ لِي. And you accepted my invitation. فَلَا تَلُومُونِي. So don't blame me. وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. So blame yourselves. مَا أَنَا بِمُصْرِخِكُمْ وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُصْرِخِيَّ. Today I can't help you and you can't help me either. إِنِّي كَفَرْتُ بِمَا أَشْرَكْتُمُونِي مِنْ قَبْلِ. And by the way, when you used to worship me, the shaitan, in the dunya, Instead of Allah, I, the shaitan, I rejected faith in the kufr which you were practicing. I repeat, it's very strange, isn't it? But it's the Quran. You may be surprised, but it's the Quran. Which surah? Surah Ibrahim. Which ayah? Ayah 22. What will the shaitan say on Judgment Day? Inni kafartu bima ashraktumuni min qabl. When you used to worship me instead of Allah in the dunya, I, the shaitan, I rejected faith in the kufr which you were practicing. The shaitan is wiser than that. He knows that Allah is the only Lord. So when he was casted out, what did he say? Rabbi fa'andirni ila yawm yub'athun. My Lord, grant me respite. Surah Hijr, verse 36. My Lord, grant me respite until they are resurrected. So the shaitan knows that Allah is his only Lord. He is not stupid. He didn't worship. He didn't tell people that, oh, well, you know, I am the only Lord and so on and so forth. He doesn't believe that in his heart. He didn't claim that he is Allah. It's the Pharaoh who made it claim, not the shaitan. The Pharaoh claimed that he is Allah, not the shaitan. So the shaitan will make complete bara, disassociation from those who worship him on Judgment Day. Surah Ibrahim, verse 22. Brothers and sisters in Islam, these are the vicious webs of the shaitan. They were approximately 30. I pray Allah Ta'ala that I did justice to this crucial topic. I will now pause and take questions from brothers and sisters.
Given today the Muslims are manufacturing toothpaste which contains fluoride, which is a known poison to mortals. Less toxic than ash is more poisonous than lead. And the toothpaste are one combination, the other one is Vishwa, and the other one is They also have the labels called halal. These are not halal but haram. And the detriment effect it has on the brain and on the teeth and the kidneys. Totally, I wouldn't recommend it.
Repeat, it's not a question, it's a suggestion. The brother, he was making a suggestion. It's not a question that the toothpaste containing fluoride is detrimental to your health, your brain, your teeth, and so on and so forth. So he said he doesn't recommend that. Could you please ask questions that are relevant to the web of the shaitan? That question about fluoride, you need a Muslim who studied chemistry to answer it, a pious Muslim who studied chemistry.
Okay, sorry, okay, this is since I'm studying pharmacy. Right, too much fluoride is bad for health, okay? If the concentration is high, what the brother just mentioned, you have a lot of problems, side effects, etc. That is true. So just be careful, okay? If you do use a normal one, please try to use it as it is stated. Right, question here. What advice can you give to the students in the university in order to keep on Islam and stay away from the shaitan's web?
This is a very important question, and it is also relevant. The best advice for me to give you when you are on university campus, and there's a cassette called Muslims on Campus that talks about this. I'm not sure it's here today. You have to associate with practicing Muslims. Stay away from people who do not pray, people who do not love Islam, people who prefer Western values over their deen and Islam. Pray 5 times a day on campus, and if you are busy, join your prayers. So you are allowed to join Dhuhr with Asr and bring Asr forward, or join Dhuhr with Asr and delay Dhuhr until Asr time. Also, you are allowed to join Maghrib with Isha. So do not miss your prayers, even if you have to join them, because to join them is permissible. Keep up your prayers. Have an Islamic library of books, audio tapes, and videotapes. Have a study circle on campus. for brothers and sisters where you have a pious brother come and give you speeches about Islam. Make Islam your priority in your life. So whenever you're studying anything, whether it is pharmacy, medicine, anything you're studying, computers, your intention should be, I am acquiring this knowledge to benefit Islam and Muslims. So as long as you have an Islamic library where you read books, audio, and you listen to audio tapes, video tapes, and you associate with pious people, inshallah you'll remain on the deen.
Okay, another question here. SubhanAllah, question on mother all the time. Do you feel it is of being important that Muslims follow their mother?
Whenever a Muslim doesn't understand the Arabic language, and they cannot approach the books of the classical scholars and make deductions, then that person should follow a madhab. However, it's not compulsory on you to follow a madhab, but it's compulsory on you to have a sheikh. I don't know who is the sheikh here in Bradford. You are not allowed to make books your sheikhs. Ahmad ibn Hanbal was a great scholar and Imam Shafi was his sheikh. Imam Shafi was a great scholar and Abu Yusuf was his sheikh. Abu Yusuf was the best student of Abu Hanifa. So Abu Hanifa passed on his knowledge to Abu Yusuf, and Abu Yusuf passed on his knowledge to Imam Shafi. Imam Shafi passed his knowledge to Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Now these scholars didn't say, well, I know Arabic, I'm firmly grounded in Arabic, I don't need to study Islam underneath a sheikh, I can buy the books and go home and read. They didn't say that. They studied Islam underneath a sheikh. So it's compulsory on you to have a live person who explains the deen to you, who is firmly grounded in the Arabic language. But anyone whose sheikh is his books, the scholars of Islam said the shaitan becomes his sheikh. If your books are your sheikh, then the shaitan becomes your sheikh.
Okay, is there any question from the floor? Yes, Barbara.
You mentioned that sometimes the more he can divide us and the more he can have more power against us. So can you please explain to us how we can work within ourselves to unite our brothers and sisters?
Unity is strength and division is weakness. It's compulsory on Muslims to be united, but how can we be united? We cannot be united on the basis of skin color or on the basis of language or on the basis of nationality. We have to be united on the basis of aqidah. We have to believe in the same things. Why do you think the Prophet ﷺ spent 13 years in Mecca teaching the Muslims aqidah, the correct beliefs? Because if they have different beliefs, they will be at each other's throat. Now right now in this country, why do you think Hizb ut-Tahrir, Jamaat Ihya Manhaj Sunnah, Buraywi, Sufi, young Muslims, they are at each other's throat because they have different aqidah. So the only way you can be united is for you to have the same aqidah. So you have to go back to Quran and Sunnah. Go back to Quran and Sunnah, then you will be united. And do not be self-opinionated. You give your own opinion. You use your own opinion to explain the deen. Some people, they embrace Islam and they are in Islam for 1 year. They don't know Arabic, then they go to a study circle and they memorize a few hadiths, then they start pass fatwas, verdicts, and they use English to explain English. So this is a calamity, a disaster, and it's one of the signs of the last days. The only way forward for unity is for us to learn our aqidah and be united upon the same beliefs.
Right, any other question from the floor?
I am very happy about what you said, but if you ask any of these groups, they all pick and choose from the Quran what suits them and what suits of what they want to say. And they use that against one another, and it's just like sort of rivals against one another. Everyone says, we believe in this ayah, or we accept this ayah, and they put it on their leaflets, and they are all giving some knowledge out.
Allah said in Surah Baqarah, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضٍ فَمَا جَزَاءُ مَنْ يَفْعَلَ ذَلِكَ مِنكُمْ إِلَّا خِزْيٌ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يُرَدُونَ إِلَى أَشَدِّ الْعَذَابِ وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. Will you believe in a part of the book and reject faith in another part? And what is the recompense of people who behave like this except khizyun, disgrace in the dunya, and on Judgment Day they will be exposed to the most painful and humiliating of punishments. And Allah is not unmindful of what you do. So hypocrites, they treat the Quran like a plate of food. They take what they want and they dump what they don't want. You have to believe in all of the Quran because Allah said, Ya alladhina amanu, udkhulu fis-silmi kaffa. O you who believe, enter into Islam wholeheartedly. So you have to believe in all of the book.
I think this is a fair question. Is having a ponytail halal or haram? What's the problem?
Is having a ponytail haram or halal? What's the hukum? It's haram for you to have a ponytail, and it's haram for you to shave this part of your hair, this part of your hair, and leave the top. To shave the two sides and leave the top. This is the haircut of the shaitan. And whenever you have a ponytail, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said the shaitan sits in that ponytail. So it's not allowed in Islam for you to have ponytails. Inshallah, we need to have a cassette. I will produce it soon. The Muslim dress for males and females.
Hi, any more questions from the floor?
Can you also explain a bit on Muslim boys wearing earrings? Because we have a lot of them in this Nokia area.
It's not permissible to wear earrings as males because you imitate the woman. It's not allowed. And the hadith says, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ الْمُتَشَابِهِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ لِلنِّسَاءِ وَالْمُتَشَابِهَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ لِلرِّجَالِ. Allah Ta'ala curses men who behave like women, and Allah curses women who behave like men. So you're not allowed to wear earrings. There's a cassette here called A Message to All Smokers. Smoking is haram because of the following reasons. Smoking is haram, not makruh. The wicked scholars say makruh, that's a lie. Smoking is haram, and it's a form of germ warfare which the henchmen of the shaitan have launched against us. They flood the East and the Middle East with cigarettes, and they make it very, very cheap. While in their country they make it expensive. Smoking is haram because it is suicide. You will say, my grandfather smokes for all his life and he didn't die from cancer. So why is it suicide? I can say to you, I have a grandfather, he committed zina all his life and he didn't die from AIDS. Does that make it halal? So smoking is haram because it is suicide. Smoking is haram because you are wasting your wealth. And Allah Ta'ala said in Surah Isra 27, إِنَّ الْمُبَادِرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينِ وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِرَبِّهِ كَفُورًا. Verily, the wasters are the brothers of the shaitan, and the shaitan is always ungrateful to his Lord. Smoking is haram because it gives you bad breath, and many smokers, they offend their brothers and sisters whenever they go to the masjid and pray shoulder to shoulder with them, with their breath. And the Prophet ﷺ said, people who eat onion and garlic stay away from our mosque. And whenever you smoke and you go to the mosque, the angels who are supposed to be there to protect you, they abstain from the mosque because of one smoker or two smokers. So you deprive your brothers and sisters of the barakah of having the angels in the mosque because of your breath as a smoker. Smoking is haram because it makes the fast of Ramadan a burden on you. Because you are addicted to smoking. It makes the fast of Ramadan a burden on you, the smoking that you perform. Smoking is haram because it forces you away from the company of the pious, the righteous, and causes you to end up in the company of the unrighteous, the impious. Smoking is haram because when you smoke, you imitate the kafirs. It's not the custom of the Sahabas to smoke. Smoking is haram because when you smoke, you imitate the people of the hellfire. When the Rasul ﷺ went to Isra and Miraj, hell was shown to him and he saw smoke coming from their mouth and their nostrils, the inhabitants of the hellfire. When you smoke, smoke comes from your mouth and your nostrils, so you behave like the people of the hellfire. As a Muslim, you have to behave like the people of paradise, not like the people of the hellfire. Smoking is haram because you start unnecessary fires. So many smokers, they go home, they light a cigarette, and they relax, sleeping in their coach, and they burn up the chair, burn down the house, and kill themselves, and maybe kill the other family members. So when you smoke, you start unnecessary fires. Therefore, smoking is haram. Smoking is haram because Allah said, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Do not bring about your own destruction with your own two hands. وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. And smoking causes cancer and many other things. Smoking is haram because it affects your al-wala wal-bara. So these cigarette companies like Matahan, Cravenay, Marlboro, I can't remember the others. Who do you think own these companies? Jews and Christians. So every time you buy a cigarette, the profit goes to the banks of the companies of the Jews and the Christians, and they use their wealth to kill Muslims all over the world. So these companies are owned by the enemies of Islam. So when you buy them and support them, you are giving them your money to become richer than they are. These are the most important reasons why smoking is haram. I think I mentioned 15. It's supposed to be 15 reasons. If you didn't count 15, maybe I left something out. But it's supposed to be 15 reasons why smoking is haram. There's another reason. As a matter of fact, there are two other reasons. Smoking is haram because you set a very, very bad example for your children. Any smoker, you ask him, do you have children? Yes. One boy, one girl. One is 9, the other is 11. The girl is 9, the boy is 11. When you throw the cigarette away after smoking it, would you like your 9-year-old daughter to go behind you and pick it up and go in her bedroom and smoke secretly? No, you wouldn't like it. So if you wouldn't like your daughter to copy you, why then did you set such a very evil and bad example for your children to follow, to emulate? So smoking is haram because you set a very evil and bad example for your children to follow. The other reason, smoking is haram because it is shirk. How is it shirk? It is shirk, what type of shirk? At-tawakkul, the shirk of at-tawakkul. The same way whenever a man, his wife is cheating on him, he goes to the pub and he drinks the problem away. He puts his trust in the alcohol to put him in a good mood and to get over his mental depression. Whenever a man is down and out, he lights a cigarette and smoke. And whenever you look at the ad that they put on the TV for cigarettes, they always tell you that whenever you're down and out and you are in a very bad mood and you want to be in a good mood, just light a cigarette and the cigarette will sort out your mood. So cigarette smoking is shirk, the shirk of at-tawakkul, the shirk of trust, because you put your trust in the cigarette to put you in a good mood. And if you were a true believer, you would pray, because the Rasul, whenever he was in a bad way, physically or mentally, or he had problems, he used to seek help in patience and prayer. The Prophet ﷺ always seek help in patience and prayer. These are the most valid reasons why smoking is haram.
You mentioned democracy is the biggest shirk facing Muslims today. Why is it that Muslims call for democracy when they can see the Ra'igadi beliefs will not uphold?
Yeah, democracy is the greatest shirk because democracy means the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Therefore, the people make laws. So a law in a democratic society, a law is insignificant, unimportant, and totally irrelevant. So in a democratic country, the MPs represent the people, and whenever they want to pass a bill, they raise hands, and the majority has the say. A law doesn't have the say, the majority has the say. That is democracy. So it is the greatest shirk. The reason why Muslims believe in democracy, even though it's the greatest shirk, is because the majority of Muslims in the world today are jahil with absolutely no taqwa. Jahil, not knowing their religion, no taqwa, meaning they are weak in iman, they are weak in their fear of Allah Ta'ala. This is why the kafirs were able to make them kafirs without them realizing it.
Okay.
Just one or two observations. I fully agree with what the speaker has said about the necessity to identify the enemy. I think to equal smoking is a harm, but and you spoke quite lucidly on the evils of smoking and the foolishness of smoking. I fully agree with what you say. This is written in the good book, that teaching should be by example and not by compulsion. If you don't want your children to smoke, then you should set a good example of not smoking. But when it comes to identifying the enemy, you have been a little bit vague. You've referred to the media as the enemy. But who controls the media? You've referred to democracy as the enemy. But who controls democracy in Britain and America? You see, democracy involves the media. It involves the media. A government is formed on the basis of which party has the most economic power and the most control over the media. to attract the votes. You were talking earlier about, I don't know, I can't put it exactly in your words, but seduction.
Subliminal seduction.
Seduction by the media. And perhaps you didn't use that word, but people are seduced by the media. They're seduced into wanting things that they cannot possibly afford and getting into debt. So this is part of seduction of the media. But talking about the satanic web, there is a satanic web. But I think people should be more aware of who is spinning the web. Who is spinning the web? The bankers, the usurers, Wall Street, and the people who control the American government, who control the British government, who control the United Nations. You've referred to Bosnia and how the United Nations stood back and let the Muslims be slaughtered. Who controls the United Nations? My estimation and my experience leads me to consider that it is Zionism that controls the United Nations. It controls the media in Britain, it controls the media worldwide. Now, you were speaking about the evils of smoking, but now we're learning from each other. And I would like to inform that my friend here, my brother here, raised a very important... Wait a moment, please. Allow me to finish. There's been a lot of time wasted here before you came, Faisal. Now, let me just explain that in cigarette tobacco that you've just been denigrating and warning about, there is the same chemical that they are now putting deliberately into toothpaste and advising young women to rub into the baby's gums before the teeth are even emerging. Rub fluoride toothpaste into the gums. Now it ain't just the teeth that are about to develop, it's the brain cells that are developing. And fluoride is an accumulative systemic poison. And it can be used in drugs by the drug companies to manufacture prescription drugs that can be used to modify human behaviour. It can be used in chemical warfare. The nerve gases, soman and sarin and GF, contain fluoride. If people look at the small print on the tube of fluoride toothpaste, they will see for a child's toothpaste, they will see 0.4% sodium monofluorophosphate. That can be used alternatively as nerve gas, insecticide or rat poison. Now, you've got to understand who your enemy is and how they're getting at you.
I will tell them who the enemy is. I'll tell them who the enemy is. Brothers and sisters in Islam, the enemy, your enemy, is any group of people who set up a system which is not in conformity with Al-Islam, Quran and Sunnah. So your enemy is any group of people or any system which was designed to counteract, to be against, in direct conflict with Quran and Sunnah. So your enemy is anything which is not Islam. That is your enemy. And it is very vast, and I could not speak on the enemy as I would like to. The Satan web is very vast, as this gentleman has made mention of, the banking system. But we need a separate sitting to talk about the banking system. So I spoke about the web in a brief manner, because I do not want to bore you with so many webs of the shaitan. But what the gentleman said, the banking system is a very, very vicious web of the shaitan. And the VAT which you pay on electricity bill, telephone, heating bill, is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ coming to pass, that in the last days, those who did not directly take interest will fall into the dust that comes from the interest. You will be touched with the dust that comes from the interest, and the VAT, the valued added tax, is that interest which you are paying. So we are all paying interest. Every time you pay your phone bill, your gas bill, and so on and so forth. You are paying interest, and we'll be having another speech, inshallah, entitled "The World Has Become a Habitation of Devils." Then I will go into the banking system, which that gentleman was talking about, and the enemy in more details.
Okay, first of all, for the brothers and the sisters, being patient, listening to their advice. The time is coming short because we also have to do answer. If anyone's got any question, personal question or something like this, if you want to ask the brother Faisal, please do so. Again, I'd just like to mention that the programs we're having the Monday at 5 o'clock by Imam Ahmed Ali, Wednesday Islam Iman and Ihsan by Honorable Haq and Jesus in Islam on the Thursday at 5 o'clock. We've got the cassette version, also got the cassettes here, they're really interesting titles. Please have a look and do buy which page. We've got some books there, they're also for sale. We've got some cassettes. If you want more information about Islam, please try to get in touch with us in Islamic Society. Information regarding religion or etc. Please, you're welcome to do so. And also you can tell other people regarding Islam. Today is also Also, the brother is here on the 15th of March, which is a Saturday. We'll be having a talk in the small hall in the Richmond building. So you should try to pass the message around. We will also be having Brother Yusuf Islam coming there as well on the 15th of March. The time will be approximately 1:30 till about 4 or 5. You'll see the posters around.
Listen, we have to get the brothers in. People find the board just to see a speaker, they want to see brothers. I don't know why.
Can you get this live?
Sorry or not.
How's it going, man? I've read those 2 talks today.
Yeah.
Right?
You alright?
Looking beautiful as well.
You've turned it.
You're supposed to be 63. Jav took 15 minutes. Yeah, supposed to give him the money. I was Jav. Only £8.
Yeah, just put them on that side. You just do your stall then. What's that much? You got any leg? You got any leg?
Yeah. I thought you don't do like that.
You got about quarter to 3.
Yeah, go ahead. What I'm saying, from my understanding of the way
This is our last.
yeah, that's one.
He's Muslim.
Give some to the sisters. Yeah, give the rest.
People let people on board, you know, talk and speak for it. They introduce. That's it. Just like see people.
Sister Kasiba wants
Just move this around, innit?
Move it around.
Yeah, just look in the middle. Go on.
Zoom in. Hopefully, yeah. That's a joke. I know, it's 100 times. Yeah, I know. I've seen people do that. It's not an issue. It's not something we should be about. You understand? It's not in my it's not. It's not in my opinion. If you see people doing it, you shouldn't tell them it's not an issue. To make difference.
Huh?
What is an issue when people make dua for that? It's not allowed. They make dua for the See Baba's baby now? MashaAllah, she's massive. Oh, getting love there. Or to make dua for on graves. No, you can ask and bring up the graves. But you cannot ask for if you're going to make a they can say the Christians will try to no, the person gets from land. The implication is that come and see where this one.
Yeah. It's fine. Look, she's taking it right off somebody.
She's not, you know, she says she messes about and stuff.
Troubles. She had to get used to it. Now he's making them voice of serious.
Literally life. People say literally life.
What's that?
No, it's alright. I said, where's the daddy wants to go to see it? Oh. Was life, you would have made it. And the problem back to you was the difference between salt and water. That's about the hustle. The shadow was one time. So no ring? That's in my thing going on. Let's go over here and let's move these people out of the way. Let's get some.
I'm the religion of preacher.
You know what? You call it on. There's no one to people want.
It's alternative.
When it?
You use the act to understand the not there. You use act to understand the correct. No, because of matter. cannot understand. That's why we don't tell them to pray will be surprised. So you need the akal to understand Quran and Sunnah. You're not allowed to do what people do, they use the akal to refute Allah.
Sheikh.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.